I just want to start off by saying congratulations, Disney Lucasfilm. You've done it again. You've ruined another beloved franchise. Congratulations. In fact, I want to give this to you. It's a little trophy to commemorate this moment. So here you go. Well, I guess you can't take it because you're a camera I'm talking to right now. And then also that this says congrats on adulting. I don't know if my camera will focus. There it is a little bit. All jokes aside, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a disappointing ending to one of the best and most iconic film franchises, probably of all time. It is way too long. It further tarnishes the character of Indiana Jones and made me leave the theater wishing they would have just ended the whole thing at The Last Crusade. I mean, I don't know how you watch that third film, and more specifically, that last scene, and go, there's more that needs to be told here. Well, I know what more they were thinking of. Well, I guess not in this case. But anyway, hi, my name is Jackson George. If you haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny yet, we're talking all things spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, I'd advise you click away. Massive spoilers ahead. But if you're someone who's seen the movie or is like, screw it, I don't care, well then come join me on the ride that is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The movie begins in a flashback sequence set in the 1940s with a de-aged young Indiana and his partner Basil Shaw, and them unsuccessfully sneaking into a Nazi base to steal the Lance of Longinus. Longinus. Anyway, name aside, this is the lance that the Roman soldier used to pierce Christ's side to make sure he was dead after his crucifixion. So it was believed that because this lance pierced the side of the Son of God, it gave it special powers. Now, what powers does it hold? It's never really explained in the movie, but Hitler thought it was powerful enough to help turn the tide of World War II, so he sent his Z's to go after them. I don't know if I can name this party during the time of World War II, so we're just going to call them the Z's. Anyway, Shaw gets captured and is taken on the train with the lance to go to Berlin to meet with Hitler. Indy says, no, we can't let that happen. So he launches himself on the train to save Shaw and recover the lance in a pretty awesome train sequence. Indy does find the lance but finds out it's a fake, but it is revealed by Voller, the main villain of the film, that a more powerful artifact is on the train, the Dial of Destiny, a dial made by Archimedes which can apparently allow the user to time travel. Yes, time travel is now a thing in Indiana Jones. Moving on. However, only the first half of the dial is on the train, and the second half has never been discovered. Indy proceeds to free Shaw and escapes with the dial, and they jump off the train right before it is bombed by Allied forces. This opening sequence is the best part of the movie. It felt like an old Indiana Jones movie. Maybe it was just the set piece. Maybe it was a younger looking Harrison Ford. There's just something about it that made it feel like it was Indiana Jones. And it's really cool that now we're in a time where technology is so advanced where we can actually de-age people. It's even though there were a couple spots in this scene where you were like, that's not great. The fact that we're even able to get this close is like, it's incredible. This scene was done really well, and after watching it, gave me really high hopes that this film was going to be good, that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be after watching the trailers, that they were going to stay faithful, that they were going to treat this character well, and that this was going to be a good movie. But all that hope quickly faded away at the start of the next scene, where we see Indiana Jones in the 1970s as a sad old man, alone, recently divorced, and about to retire from his job. I don't know, something about what they're doing here reminds me of another character that Harrison Ford played that was from a legacy franchise that people loved. I knew they were going to go this route. I really did, but I really hoped that they wouldn't. Why do we have to make all these old beloved characters so sad? And I think it tarnishes the ending of Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Now, that movie is by no means perfect, but I thought it had a pretty decent ending with Indy finally getting married, getting reunited with his son, Starting the film almost with a complete reversal of that is a bit jarring and a bit sad to see. I wish they could be a bit more creative than that sad, old, lonely man trope that we've just seen countless times with these legacy characters. Anyway, I've said way too much about that already. Anyway, after his retirement party, he goes to a bar where his goddaughter approaches him, Helena Shaw, Basil's daughter. She's doing research on Archimedes' dial for her master's degree. She asks for Indy's help to locate the dial so that she could study it. Luckily for her, Indy takes her to his school's archive and reveals that he's been holding on to the first half of the dial all this time. Then a bunch of Voller's thugs show up and attempt to steal the dial, killing innocent professors in the process. Then one entirely too long action sequence later, Helena steals the dial and takes the dial to Morocco to sell it at an auction. Now Indy is without the dial, having no clue where Helena went, and is now on the run because he's accused of the murders that happened during the chase sequence. Lucky for Indy, though, his friend Sala knows about this auction and helps Indy get to Morocco. Now I know what you must be thinking. How did Sala know about this random auction in Morocco? Get ready for that. It's pretty common throughout this film. Indy arrives in Morocco and crashes the auction, and Voller also appears in an attempt to steal the dial. How did Voller know about this auction?
Who knows?
Another way too long chase sequence later, and Voller gets away with the dial, and Indy, Helena, and her sidekick Teddy head to Greece in search of the location for the second dial. They find one of Indy's friends who helps them dive down and find the Graphikos, which tells them that the second piece is located at Archimedes' tomb in Sicily. Then Voller shows up and kills Indy's friend, but Indy and the gang get away with the dial and the Graphikos and head to Sicily. Now, how did Voller find them in the middle of the ocean?
Who knows?
Anyway, they get to Sicily and Teddy wanders off for some ice cream, which I don't blame the lad, and gets captured by Voller. Anywho, after a series of puzzles, they finally get to the tomb and find the last half of the dial and Archimedes' body, which has a watch from the present, proving the dial works. Then Voller shows up and shoots Indy and takes the dial and Indy away while Helena and Teddy escape. Voller then tells Indy his diabolical plan to go back in time, murder Hitler to become the leader of the Z's, and then make sure the Z's win World War II. Voller then activates the device and locates a time fissure. I don't know how to say that, so I'm just going to call it a time hole. He finds a time hole and hops on the plane to go through the hole to travel back to 1939, except he miscalculated and they end up in 212 BC during the siege of Syracuse. Helena sneaks on the plane and saves Indy before the Romans shoot it down, killing Voller and his men. It's time to go back to the present, but Indy wants to stay back and die in the past, since he's finally getting to live history and has no one to go back to. But Helena knocks him out and drags him back home, where, after being healed from his wounds, is reunited with Marion, and the end. And that's it. That's how Indiana Jones ends. Where do I even begin with this one? I'll try to get some positives out of the way first. Harrison Ford and Mads Mikkelsen are some of the best parts of the film. I love Mads Mikkelsen. Always love seeing him in a villain role. He does a decent job here, the best that he can do with what he was given. And seeing Harrison Ford back with the hat and the whip was really satisfying. Although I do feel like Indiana is a lot of the time pushed to the side, as a common trope for these new Disney films. The title character getting pushed to the sidelines for side characters. I will say, even though I feel like these scenes were way too long, the action set pieces and the chase sequences I thought were pretty fun to watch. And even though I thought they did them well, they still didn't feel like that classic Indiana Jones action sequences. Now for the ugly, now for the bad. The end of the movie felt very rushed. I kept waiting for more, and then all of a sudden, boom, done. We're out of there. We're gone. No more. Credits, roll. It was very weird. It almost felt like they had something else to do, but they couldn't finish it before the movie came out. And it seems like this And there's a couple throughout the movie that reminded me of all the behind the scenes stuff that went on here. I realized they went through multiple rewrites and I believe multiple directors. Another thing, the new characters just aren't that interesting or likable. I really didn't like Helena. And the more I watched the movie and the more I saw of her, the more I saw the missed opportunity they had with her character. It almost seemed like they wanted her to be two different things and could not decide what they wanted her to be. It's like they wanted her to be the next Indiana Jones, but at the same time, they wanted her to be different. I felt like I was watching two different characters. And she just takes so much screen time away from Indiana Jones. You know, the reason I bought the movie ticket, it was kind of frustrating how much they focused on her. But she's just not super likable. And her sidekick as well is obviously just an attempt to copy Short Round from the second Indiana Jones movie. The other problem I have is with the dial itself. It's never really explained how it works in regards to time travel. I realize that the dial itself isn't a time travel device, but rather just finds time holes for you to go through. But my question is, do these time holes just randomly pop up, or do they only pop up when you locate it with the dial? And if they do just pop up randomly, why aren't people time traveling all the time? Maybe there's more of an explanation that I missed, but I don't understand the whole time travel thing. I don't think it was explained very well. And speaking of time travel, the final act of the movie is very anticlimactic, very underwhelming. I think it would have been way more impactful for them to go back to a time that's actually central to the series. I mean, this is the finale. This is the end of a 5-movie saga here. You gotta end it with a bang. And to go back to a time period that has nothing to do with the previous 4 films, I think is a miss here. Honestly, I think if Voller's plan worked and they went back to 1939, I think that would have been a lot better than going to the Siege of Syracuse. To me, the reason I'm not a huge fan of the dial is because it doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones artifact, at least not in its uses. One of my biggest problems with Crystal Skull was aliens. That just completely took me out of it. Any sort of feeling I had that this was an Indiana Jones movie completely vanished once I heard about aliens. It didn't work for me. And similarly here, time travel does not work. I think it's too jarring, too unrealistic, especially in the way that they did it. The final act didn't feel like an Indiana Jones scene. And trust me, I get it. Majority of the original trilogy of Indiana Jones were about magical objects that did a bunch of unbelievable things, but they felt more grounded and a little bit more realistic than aliens and time travel. To be honest, after the opening scene, I thought that the lance would have been a better artifact for them to go after than this dial. I think that would have made for a much better film. The last thing I'll say about this film is so long. Oh my gosh, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes, and I feel like a lot of it could have been cut. Look, is this as bad as I thought it was going to be? Absolutely not. It's better than I thought it was going to be, but it's still bad. It's not a good finale. I think every single Indiana Jones movie has had that challenge for justifying why that story needed to be told after Last Crusade. And I think both Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny can't answer that question. In conclusion, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a very disappointing ending to the Indiana Jones franchise. Time travel's dumb, the movie's way too long, certain characters are given way too much screen time over Indiana Jones, the villains are dumb and just appear out of nowhere, and the ending feels rushed and very unsatisfying. But with all that being said, that's it from me. Let me know down in the comment section below what you thought of Dial of Destiny. Was it good? Was it not? Was it a satisfying ending? Let me know down below. But as always, thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. And until next time, peace out, bro skillets.